There, we are live. The buttons have changed, so I'm getting used to a new layout. And welcome! Oh my gosh, I'm so excited because this is February. We are officially in the month that I don't know if it is a thing, but I dub it to be the month of love. And particularly, I've, for a very long time, made February the month of self love. It's more for me about the relationship I have with myself than it is about the primary relationship, which, Hallmark kind of made a deal out of that. So, I welcome you all to this episode of the Freedom Seeker Show. I'm your host, Yvonne Winkler, and I am an author, speaker, coach for women. And the Freedom Seeker Show is, of course, the place where we have those unfiltered conversations that matter to us. And my guest today is Sam Rafoss, and I am so thrilled to have her here because we are going to talk about a topic that is not only near and dear to my heart, but it's also a topic that I wonder, and I would love to hear from the audience, how many are in experimental mode around, maybe going without alcohol for a month. There was the dry January. I don't know if there's a theme for February, but I really thought possibly the best way I have loved myself or shown myself self-love has been getting sober. And that, even that word, using that word, was really hard for me to use initially when I went onto this journey. And I see Sam reacting. She's like, yeah, me too. So I want to invite all of you to just park the languaging around this for a moment and just try to get really present to what it is that Sam and I are going to be talking about from a place of where does this land with you, rather than the labels and the attachments that we have to the word alcohol, the word sobriety, the word dependencies, and so on and so forth. So that's my invitation for today's show. And now I'm going to turn it over to Sam. Sam, welcome to the show. It is so nice to have you here.
Thank you, Yvonne. I'm so honored to be here with you.
That's wonderful. I'm so glad you made it. I was on your show not that long ago, and we had an amazing conversation. You are the founder of Sober and Serene, and I would love to start with tell us a little bit about who you are and what happened that led you to create Sober and Serene, and what Sober and Serene is.
Okay. All right. Well, the fast intro about me is let's say I've always been a helper. From the time I was 6 years old, I was raised on a Saskatchewan farm with five brothers and sisters and amazing parents. We were, uh, you could say, Yvonne, you know the Partridge Family? A lot of times we were equated to that because we had a small family band. So, anyway, I digress. I always liked helping people from a young age. So, I did go into the helping professions. I was a social worker. Then I had my kids and I wanted to stay home with my kids. So, I became an entrepreneur 20 years ago just so I could be around the girls and be that stay at home mom.
Mm.
So, as much as I guess I've always been spiritual. I've always been holistic. I've always been looking at health and wellness. So, I'm a holistic nutritionist. I'm a coach. I'm a mentor. Um, Lots of health and wellness. And when it comes right down to it, though, as much as, we do have to have self love, and we're going to talk about that today, I can honestly say, and you guys, I might cry because that's who I like when I start talking about this, because everything for me is about my three daughters and my grandson.
Mm.
So they are at the top of everything for me. And I guess that's why I take care of myself or try to take care of myself.
That's your why.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and what led me to become sober. It was
Mm.
the birth of my grandson 3 years ago. So that really was the trigger for me I that I had to look at my wine consumption. So that was the trigger for me.
Was it something about their birth that made you realize that you wanted to be someone or something different, or what was it about the birth of your grandchild that made you put it in question?
I I was holding him. He was about 6 weeks old, and I was staying with my daughter at the time. It was the beginning of the pandemic that we're all shut down anyway, and it was the first time that her and her boyfriend wanted to go out for the evening, and she just said, "Mom, do you mind if we go out for a couple hours?" And of course, who doesn't want to hold a baby? And Yvonne, at that time when I was staying with her, for me, wine o'clock was always 5 o'clock. But
Mm-hmm.
during the pandemic, wine o'clock became 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock. It was, it really was the highlight of my day. And 2.5 years later, sober, and this is the absurdity of it for me. And I love that word and I used it a lot. That now that I can look at it with a clear head, I think back and I think that was the highlight of my day, looking forward to when I could have my first glass of wine. So anyway, so
Mm-hmm.
Abby and her boyfriend were heading out, and I'm holding my grandson and I'm looking at him. And of course, I didn't drink that day. I just said to myself, if I'm going to look after the baby, I'm not going to drink. I'm going to be fully present. And I'm looking down at this beautiful, you can imagine holding a baby, looking at a sweet sleeping baby, and those God moments that we have. The thought of looking at that beautiful face was, okay, you have a choice. You have a choice to be the Nana that you want to be for this little boy who can run around with him, who can play with him, who can be there for him. All of the, and this, Yvonne, this is within probably like a fleeting second, but it's almost like the
Mm-hmm.
visuals, the videos were like that. I could see my life with this little boy. And I just said, do you want that? Or do you want to be the Nana that is half drunk because, a glass or two of wine and I'm feeling good?
Mm-hmm.
And I just said, do I want this Nana for him? Do I want him to have the memory growing up with me with the wine glass in my hand? Because Yvonne, that's what I was at 5 o'clock, well, 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock. I had a wine glass in my hand till I went to bed.
Huh.
And in that moment, I just said no. Like, I want him to have me without that. And then it began the journey. So between, March, April of 2020 to July 1st of 2020, it took me that long to finally, quote, get sober.
Mm-hmm. I'm sensing though that I mean, this was the moment that really changed things for
Yeah.
you and where you moved into action to doing something about it. But I wonder, did you have some thoughts around it before that moment happened? Like, have you
Oh, of
quietly
course.
contemplated, what would life look like without that glass of wine in my hand?
Of course. And I tried it many times and I don't mean to sound flippant at all. It's like this is a serious subject. However,
Mm-hmm.
if we laugh about it too, it helps to
Absolutely.
to get through
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah.
of course,
Yeah.
I I used to have journals. Well, I
Mm-hmm.
still journal, but I can look back at journals and I'd have goals, or I'd have those little white index cards that I would do for myself every week, and it would be goals of yoga every day, whatever other health goal I had, a business goal, the mind body spirit goals,
Yeah.
and on all of those cards it would say 7 days without wine. And Yvonne, I could check off every single one of those goals, because when you are an entrepreneur, you learn if you don't do your goals, it life doesn't happen and you don't get what you want.
Mm.
9 times out of 10, I could not check off 7 days without alcohol. I would go 2 or 3, 4, and then I'd say to myself, oh, I'm good. Oh, you know what? I look at all these other goals that I've done, and look at how healthy I've been, and look at all of this that I'm doing.
Mhm.
I deserve a
Mm.
glass of wine. And
Mhm.
that was my self talk. So
Mhm.
for years, I justified it because I had so many of the other healthy pieces in place.
Yeah. Ah, that opens up so much. What Let me just see where I want to take this. I being this coming off of the holidays, January for many is a time where we consider, um, you know, going 7 days or maybe even a whole month without drinking. What is something that you have done in any of the attempts, including your final goodbye to alcohol? What are some of the things you have done to love yourself sober? What are some of the things you did on this journey?
What finally stuck for me is that internal shift. The internal shift of going, okay, I love my children so much and I love my grandchild so much. I'm willing to do that for them.
Mm-hmm.
And just as an aside, like, my daughters always said to me, Mom, you're fine. Like, you don't do anything crazy.
Mm-hmm.
You don't, you're still responsible. You don't drink and drive. So they had never seen me where it was a problem for them.
As a problem, yeah,
So,
yeah,
right. And so again, I would internalize that. Well, I guess it's not a problem.
yeah.
However, that's what I say to everyone. It doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. It doesn't matter if you're having one glass, one bottle, two bottle, like whatever you're doing.
I love
If you are feeling, if you are feeling this is a problem for whatever reason, then it that's where you love yourself enough to explore it more. And there was just a mindset shift where I went, okay, I have to love me enough, like I love my girls and Carson, that I can do this.
that. Mm-hmm.
And you have to have the choice in the moment. And if anybody does 12 steps, which I'm looking into more now, I did my own way of getting through it. However, I'm exploring a lot more of options right now. But I went moment by moment, choice by choice. We talk about one day at a time. No, I literally broke it down to every time I even thought about a drink, I I would carry it further and I would go, okay, I can. Is that what I really want? You know, this is what I have promised myself and Carson. So I once I make a promise to myself, I can't go against it. And I think that for me that was the difference. Before that, I kept leaving myself an out.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't declare it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's simple small shifts really.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sounds to me like your why, your reason was initially, it was always within you. It was always the self-love piece. And your reason needed to find something to attach itself to.
Yeah.
And that happened to be your grandchild at that time. And when I look back on mine, um, I feel a very similar parallel story to that, where it was, I knew I couldn't write this book if I continue to drink, because of the journey, the deep dive I was going to be doing. And the drinking would always keep me on a superficial level with all of
Yep.
it. I wouldn't be able to be completely authentic. Plus, I was about to lose my marriage, so I think the initial spark that we feel inside of ourselves, that what would life, the possibility of what would life look like without it, definitely originated in myself. And I hear you say that too. You know, you
Yeah.
filled your journals with it every year. You had that as a goal, maybe even every month. And yet we needed that external why to
Yes.
really hit it home, to really give us that. uh, I I almost feel like it was a crutch, and however first in the first few months, however long it needed to be a crutch to get us through, to remind us why we're doing it. And that almost needed to be an external reason, because like you said, you know,
Yep.
otherwise I just gave myself an out every time. Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
And it's okay. It
Mm-hmm.
is okay. Like, and you and I both know that you have to do the internal work
Mm-hmm.
for anything, whether it's getting over a wine addiction or going through trauma, anything that we need to get through, it has to be going within. We have to really be okay with ourselves.
Yeah.
However, if you need that external, if that's going to get you and there was many external things that got me through, especially at the beginning, because the the habits are so ingrained. And I used wine for everything, and I say that all the time. It was my go-to. It was, if I celebrated, if I felt bad. I have social anxiety. People, and I don't like labels, so I probably shouldn't say that. However, um, I found that I just used wine to cope with
Mm-hmm.
everything, and that's all I can say. It was my go-to coping mechanism,
Mm-hmm.
and I
Mm-hmm.
just needed to find other coping mechanisms. But I only did that with going within and
Yeah.
really figuring out why I was so attached to wine.
Mm. So what is you said, you know, your grandson played a big part in this. You went within. Uh, was there anything else that you can really pin and say that was a big thing as well that I did to love myself sober?
Um, I would not allow myself to be mean to myself. I would, whenever I had a thought of shame, guilt, remorse of anything, because
Mm.
once you become sober, and it is a little bit different for everyone. However, once the alcohol gets out of your system and you start thinking clearly, and the further removed you are, like 3 months, your brain is different. 6 months, 9 months, a year, like I'm over 2.5 years. So now my brain's like clearer than I've ever been. And I just, I know at the beginning I was really starting to beat myself up, and that
Mm-hmm.
was something that I just said no. And that's where the love yourself sober came from. No matter what, no matter what, as soon as I started thinking that, or even wanting to voice something negative, I would stop myself,
Mm.
and I would have affirmations or prayers, or I would think of something loving about myself. So that's what when I'm talking with anyone, it's the self love, have a plan, and have support. And part of my plan was those checklists of how I was going to treat myself.
Yeah.
And that early on that was a game changer for me,
Yeah.
when I allowed myself to just look at the positives, because we all have so many beautiful, wonderful characteristics, who we are as people. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I resonate deeply with that, and I would say those were my three big ones as well. Is and the plan, um, the plan really became a toolkit, and it still is a
yeah.
toolkit. It's, you know, and it built, like, going back to something you said earlier, that it's okay, you know, that maybe the other 100 times you've tried to go for 7 days not drinking didn't work out, because even within that time you strengthened your surrender around and your resolve around not wanting to do this to your body anymore. And And so you probably every time came up with something, with a new tool or a new, even a new item on your list that,
That's right.
that helps you on your plan. Was there anything surprising on that list that surprised you?
I think it was on the physical side because and I laughed to myself. Physical, I mean the food side, because I remember and I'll tell two quick things about my mom. And I mean, rest in peace. I miss my mom so much. Um, she was the only one who called me on my wine consumption.
Ah,
Everybody else, nobody ever said anything. And I'm quite outspoken, so I don't think anybody would dare to call me on it, I guess is what. But my mom would say, "Are you sure you're not drinking too much?" And Yvonne, like, come on. This is when I was at my sister's farm with my mom and I was hiding wine in a teacup. Like, if that's not a problem, like,
yeah,
like, hello. So my mom would be like, "You sure you're not drinking?" "Oh, no, I'm fine."
yeah,
So
this is
there's
normal.
that. Yeah. So there's that I made okay. And my mom doesn't drink. Like, well, she'd maybe have one drink a year. She just was never a drinker. And when I was thinking about quitting, and I'm thinking, okay, where was I drawing this parallel to my mom? Okay, so she was the only one that called me on it, and then oh, what was the other part of it? It left me.
You had two stories. It'll come back to you.
Yes,
Yeah.
it'll come back to me. Anyway, I laugh because she was the only one that called me on it. And
It
anyway,
had to
what
do
was
with
your
something
question?
physical. Yeah, you said that
Oh,
it was
oh, oh,
this.
yes,
Yeah,
because
there you
she would
go.
have tea and a cookie. She would have tea and a cookie, and she'd say, "Do you want a cookie?" And I'd be like, "No, I don't crave sweets. I don't eat sweets." And oh, I eat healthy. This was always, which is true. And and this is me who has a healthy breakfast, who eats lots of fruits and
Yes.
vegetables, who cooks great meals and everything. But let's not talk about the bottle or two of wine. Like
That's why I'm
let's
laughing.
just. I
Yeah,
know
that's why I'm laughing.
it's
And
so absurd.
I want to, yeah, it is because mine was, Sam, mine was, I don't do any sugar in my diet. Like I literally would go around and say, I have zero sugar in my diet. Like how much sugar
A
is
wine bottle
in
is
wine?
so much.
You
Yeah.
know? And I
So I'd
would,
say that.
yes, I would do the same
I'd say,
thing.
"Oh, I don't crave sugar."
Mhm.
Yet, when I stopped drinking, oh my goodness, the sugar cravings. So I
Mhm.
did for 30 days. And yes, I still have a cookie now and then. I still have, however, I'm everything is in balance. But
Mhm.
that first 30 days, I just said to myself, one of my other tools was, all you have to do is not drink. Everything else is on the table.
Yeah.
So as long as I didn't drink, I let myself eat what I wanted. I tried to get a lot of exercise. I walked a lot. I really did. That was
Yeah.
my one of my tools because I had to leave the house when wine o'clock came on. Like
Yeah.
I
Okay,
physically
interesting.
just went.
Yeah.
I
You need to
can't
get
be in
out.
the house because I drank everywhere.
Yeah.
So I'd have to leave the house and I'd take the dog for a walk.
Yeah.
But that first 30 days, oh, Yvonne, I had so many cookies.
Yeah.
I had so many cookies, cakes, you name it, because as long as I didn't drink,
Yeah.
it was a successful day.
Yeah. And I love that you bring that forth, because that was one of my surprising revelations, as well, in the sense of that I went at my final time of quitting. I realized that if I made food, if I continue to obsess about the quality of the food, the quantity of the food, and sugar and all of that stuff, and weight gain, that was really what it
Yep,
was about. Um, then I will not succeed at this. And so
yep,
I did something very similar. I said, whatever it takes, and
yep,
I will try to do my best to, eat healthy, to fuel my body. But if I'm craving ice cream, I'm having ice cream because ice cream was better in my
yep,
moment of sense than a glass of wine. And so I did the very same thing. And I think
Yeah.
that there's something to be said about that is to, because I've literally gone back to drinking many times based on the logic, and this isn't for real logic, it's just something that your brain makes up. Um, Based on the logic that if I continue to stay off of wine, I'm going to gain 20, 30 pounds. And
Hmm.
I like that was not acceptable for me. And it was the surrender of that connection that really got me through the final phases as well, because I was like, something's got to give. And if it means
Yeah.
that I'm going to have, like you said, cookies, or for me, it was ice cream, then so be it. It'll have to be okay. I'll deal with the weight part. This is what I'm
Yeah.
agreed with myself on was, is I'll deal with the weight part later. So yeah, it's a really good point. And there was something else in there
I
that you
had
said.
I had never I had never gone 30 days since, like, and I started consuming alcohol around age 19,
Mm-hmm.
because in when I went to high school, it was, and I loved sports. I was on most of the sports teams. I loved it. And the high school that I went to, the boarding school, if in my day, and we're talking, I graduated 40 years ago, in my day, if you drank or smoked, you could not be on the sports team. So it was more important to me
To be
to
on the
be on the
team.
sports team.
Yeah.
So when I went off to college or business school the next year, that's when I started to drink. So let's say age 19 to when I quit, other than when I had my 3 pregnancies, because I did not drink when I was pregnant. I could I could do that. Other than that, I don't think I had ever gone 30
Mm-hmm.
days without alcohol. So think about that. When I think about that, my whole adult life,
Mm-hmm.
I alcohol was just such a big part of my life.
Mm-hmm. And it is for many. Um, and that's let's bring it back to that, Sam. Maybe let's talk about some of the benefits, because I wonder, if there are people on listening to this, and they have tried, say, dry January, and they've done it for 5 days or for 30. Um, what would you say your favorite benefit of not drinking is, so that we can give them some encouragement to maybe keep going for a little while and just see how it feels, and how each phase of not drinking, because there are phases of clearing your
Yes.
body, how
Hmm.
each phase might look differently. So let's start with, what was your favorite discovery when you quit drinking?
Number one, and Yvonne, I'm thinking when you ask me that question, how much time do we have? Because there are so many there. There's nothing that would get me to have alcohol now. Anyway, okay. So the beginning was, my mind was not only clear, but I didn't have the obsessive thoughts, and I call it the monkey mind, or that constant hamster wheel, because I would wake up in the morning and I would go, okay, I've got to get this and this done. I'm going to eat healthy. I'm going to do yoga. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to pray. And all of these things I do. Even when I was drinking, I had a pretty solid daily routine.
Yeah.
In mixed around that, though, it would be, oh, yay, I'm going to be done at whatever time. I can drink wine. Like, mixed in that, you might as well put a big bottle of wine in the middle of it, because everything still revolved around wine.
Yeah.
Or, oh, if I have to go out, okay, I've got to make sure that I have wine at home, because I'm not going to drink and drive. So I'll have one glass while I'm out, and then I won't have any, and I'll have enough wine. So this continual, what a crazy mind. After a month, when I hit my first month, Yvonne, I celebrated like nobody's business. I was that doing the crazy, mom dance that my girls were like, oh, like, mom, you are definitely a white woman dancing that has no rhythm, and it's, but it didn't matter.
It
I
didn't
was
matter.
so excited, because I said to myself, I don't have the crazy mind.
Yeah.
I don't, like, every day is it is magical, because I don't have to manage anything but feeling good. Oh, and sleep. I when once I stopped, I I used to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning, and that's your liver talking to you in the middle of the night. Your liver is trying to detox around that time. So for years, I'd wake up and I'd either have to get a glass of water or get up. And now, Yvonne, I sleep through the night.
Mm-hmm.
Like my head hits the pillow and I am 8 hours. I do not wake up. Sound sleep. So sound sleep, more energy during the day, feel great. Um, I'm there for people. I'm like 100%. I'm 100% conscious. I remember things. I there's many things that I probably said or did in that alcohol haze, and people would say something to me later and I'd be like, "What? I don't remember
Mm-hmm.
that."
Mm-hmm.
Now, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and just being with my kids and my grandson. I mean, I see my grandson 2, 3, 4 times a week, and him and I are like just like the best pals, and we run to the park, and like I just get to be the person I want to be.
Mm.
And
That's
like
loving yourself
if
sober right
that
there. Yeah.
and if I would have known this, and you probably maybe say it to yourself too, but those of us in the sober communities, we all go, "Oh my goodness, we thought we were giving up alcohol, and now when we're in this alcohol-free world, it's like, why didn't we do this 10 years ago, 20 years ago?" Like that's what I shake my head and think. I hung on to wine for so long, and now
Mm-hmm.
that I'm where I'm at, I
Yeah.
there's nothing. There is nothing. You couldn't give me $1 million to have a glass of wine
Mm-hmm.
because my life, the way I lived with wine in it versus now, I just I wouldn't trade it.
Yeah. I you're right. I hear that a lot in the sober communities that I'm part of as well, is this what you just said right there is such a strong message throughout. It's not a random thing. Like just about everyone um, who has experienced longer periods of being without alcohol eventually says like, why go back? And certainly there are moments where it crosses my mind, and the glass looks enticing, and my god, media makes it so
Yeah.
prevalent and so important and so enticing that is it always easy to say no? Absolutely not. Like we
No.
the holidays just passed, and I did not drink, and it wasn't easy because there were moments where I would have loved to join everyone else into the celebration of things. But something that you and I talked about on your show that I think of often is the pain of going through the withdrawal, and going through that again is way too much for me
Yeah.
to for the exchange of that one sip, that one moment
Yeah.
of like being back in it. Because let's face it, it's really the only sip that matters is the first one. Everything else
Yeah.
is just the chasing of the buzz. So I love that you said that. So some of the reasons for those of you who are thinking about maybe experimenting with going without alcohol is a clear mind, and I echo that wholeheartedly. That was my number one reason for wanting to quit in the first place. Was I wanted to regain the strength and power of my brain. I wanted to have the longevity of my brain, because I feel without it, everything else is meaningless anyways. Like if I don't have my senses with me, my brain,
Yeah.
then it's meaningless. And then you said sleep. Um, that one I always held up as like that thing to aim for, because I had terrible sleep before, and I've wanted to experience that deep restful sleep. And I honestly still struggle with sleep. It's still an interrupted pattern for me, perhaps. And I'm playing with different sleep hygiene things to improve on that. But I'm I'm a little bit envious of your deep 8 hours sleep that you get.
So
But I
it's
also hear that a lot in the communities. That that's one of the main reasons a lot of people um, love to themselves sober is because of sleep. And you had more vitality and you were able to be present in conversations and just in relationships. And I love that. So if those aren't reasons enough for you, then, you know, make a list of your own. Why are you entertaining the idea of maybe
Absolutely.
possibly leaving it alone for a while? But to tie it all back together, the stronger your reasons or the more reasons you have, the higher the success chances, because at the end of the day, let's not forget, you are dealing with an addictive agent here. And so
Yeah.
it isn't just sheer willpower. You have to put some tools in place to let go of it, even if you are not, and I think Sam was very clear on that, uh, considered a problem drinker. Because where's the scale here? You know, I mean, we have this image, and this is why I think many of us have this problem with the word sober. We have this image in our mind that someone who needs to become sober had to have been an alcoholic, and an alcoholic was someone who you know, was
Their life fell apart. They
their
hit
life,
rock bottom.
yeah,
Like, I
exactly,
didn't
yeah,
really have anything, traumatic that happened.
yeah,
So sometimes we justify it that way too and think, oh,
yeah,
well,
exactly. It
I
just
I
wasn't
didn't hit
serving
rock
you
bottom.
anymore. Yeah, but it
Exactly.
wasn't helpful, and
No.
you recognized that and you had that awareness. And I think that's really what I love to lean into for and shine a light on is that you do not have to you're right. Like, you don't have to hit rock bottom to recognize or acknowledge for yourself that alcohol may not be serving you to the life that you want. And you know me, I'm all about living the life you love. And if it gets in the way, even if it just gets in the way of you having a restful sleep, then perhaps it's time for you to just consider, what can I change about that? You know, maybe instead of having wine every night, I'll just have it on the weekend, whatever that looks like for you. But make sure you list a few of the reasons out why, because as Sam very clearly illustrated, the stronger the why, the better the chances that for success. So you're setting yourself up for success. I want to thank
Another
you.
good one too, Yvonne.
Yeah,
Another good one is skin. You will, like, I don't know about you,
you're
but
up.
um, and I do have good genes for skin. So
Mm-hmm.
thankfully there was that. However, once I got alcohol out of my system, I'm not so puffy, and uh, skin is, if you want to have good skin, don't drink alcohol. Anyway,
Oh,
okay, we could talk about
absolutely.
so much.
Absolutely. I love that. And, you know, again, something that you can do is you can join some of the online sober communities. You don't have to be a non drinker in order to be sober curious. And lots of them let you join if you are simply sober curious. And in those, oftentimes they show pictures of what they looked like before and what they look like now. And the image difference, you're right, is just always just, wow, this is such a transformation from a skin point of view,
Yeah.
and wrinkles as well, right? It's really significant. um I love this conversation, and like you, Sam, I can talk about this for a long time, and
Yeah.
we, you know, this is my show. We can talk however long we want, and maybe we can have you back, and we can have some more conversations around it, because I have a feeling this year is the year where lots more people are going to normalize not drinking, with the movement of so many wonderful companies coming on board with the non-alcoholic options and choices and selections. I've seen so many people, even in just my community, in my circle, opening up to the
Me too.
possibility of not drinking, and being okay with that and normalizing it. And as you know, that was always my goal, was is to normalize not drinking. It's like, you do
Yeah.
you, um, but I don't need to and want to justify why I not have a glass of wine in my hand. So
Yep.
thank you so much for coming on for this really vulnerable conversation. I know that it still isn't as easy of a conversation to be had, but let's have it more often so that we normalize that too. And if you would like to know more about Sam's work and the Sober Serene community, you can follow her. She has a podcast called Sober and Serene. You can follow that podcast, and I will put the links to the way to connect with Sam under this video here, and in the Freedom Seeker Show channel on YouTube as well. Thank you, Sam. Any final words of wisdom?
Yvonne, thanks for having this conversation. Thank you for having me here. And I just say to anyone, just go within, go within. And if you want to
Mm,
try it, just see if you can go 7 days, 30 days, if that's what you want to try, or reach out to me or Yvonne. We're always here for a conversation if you're
yeah.
curious about it. I'm not here to preach at anyone that they have to do anything. I I just love sharing now
Mm-hmm.
what I was too scared to share, I guess. But for me it was such a behind the scenes secret that I didn't want to divulge when I was having trouble with my addiction. So now I just want to speak about it with anyone that wants. So
Mm-hmm.
um,
I
yeah,
love that. And thank you for making space for people based on your own experience, for wanting to keep it on the down low, and making space for people to have conversations without blowing them up into public. So that's
yeah.
exactly what we need, is more spaces like that. Thank you. And remember, so Sam and I drew a card before we started today, and look at the message on that. You are the temple. You are the temple. So, with that, I'll close the Freedom Seeker Show for today. Sam, good to have you, and I hope to see you very soon and have you back. And please feel free to ask any questions in this group here under this video in the comment section. And Sam is in our community, so she'd be happy to respond, as well as I will respond as well. Thank you for watching. Have a really great day.
Thanks.